Whoa, Kamala entered the lion's den and killed it against BAIER Wednesday night, right? Even though she was ambushed. We'll be covering the Mockingbird media's mixed messages, state of the swing states, October surprises, and the Democrat crime syndicate with America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani. The news you need to know, but with solutions and hope. This is Get Free with KRISTI Leigh. All right, coming up, we're going to be breaking down the interview everyone's talking about, Kamala on Fox News, and more headlines in just a moment. But I don't want to waste a moment before bringing on my first guest. I'm very honored to be joined by fellow Frank Speech host, former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and former mayor of New York City, Mayor Rudy Giuliani, looking exceptionally handsome today. Mayor Giuliani. I mean, you said no one had ever said that for you, and I am astounded as to why they never have. So,
I am very,
I
flattered. I refuse to be insulted and complain about it like they did about President Trump saying that a senator was exceptionally beautiful. He could have meant as a person or any. Oh, it's just ridiculous. Well, KRISTI, it is a great pleasure to be with you. You do a terrific job.
Thank you. Well, I am honored to have you with me, truly. You're now an author, and of course, we're going to be talking about your excellent new book that's out. But I first wanted to get a little bit personal with you and just to say that I really admire your persistence in the face of adversity. I was just reflecting on the fact that, you were celebrated for turning New York around. You stepped up to comfort the nation following the 9/11 attacks. And then just the flip, how the media turned against you, mocked you, persecuted you. It's such a stark contrast to have to go through being celebrated and then like viciously attacked. So, I mean, first of all, like I said, I have to tell you, I really admire that about you, that you've been through all that, and wanted to know, what is your driving force to just keep fighting and keep following your heart?
It really is rather simple, and I've had to re-examine it in writing the book. It's the simple fact that I'm right. I mean, I don't mean that in an arrogant sense. I've been a lawyer all my life, mostly a prosecutor. It's required me to constantly re-examine my positions. I was always afraid, and rightly so, of possibly prosecuting an innocent man. I was brought up in an old tradition that the power of prosecution is probably it's the most powerful position I ever had, including mayor. And you only prosecute people that are guilty and you can convict. And I used to ponder that many, many hours. So when my good friend Donald Trump was falsely accused of Russian collusion, which I knew from day one was false because I was with him for 5 straight months, almost 24 hours a day, saw him in the morning and put him to bed at night, particularly when we were traveling. He wasn't in contact with Russia, not in any way. So I volunteered to defend him. From that day on, the FBI secretly spied on me. They took my iCloud account. They didn't tell me until 4 years later. Well, they weren't spying on me. They were spying on Donald Trump. But imagine taking the iCloud account of his lawyer. In a prior day, to me, that would be like a sin, worse than a crime. Lawyers, whether you're a prosecutor or we have to honor and respect the privilege that you have with your lawyer. Otherwise, people can't be properly defended. Well, Donald Trump didn't have a privilege of attorney-client privilege. He didn't have a privilege of free speech, right? He didn't have a privilege of he got convicted less than a unanimous verdict in a criminal case. As far as I can tell, he's the first man since about 1300 to be convicted without a unanimous verdict in England and in the United States. It's absurd what has happened to us we've become, and I know this is hard for America to accept, it's hard for me to say, we've become in many ways a fascist country under Biden and Harris.
Yeah, and I mean, we have to suffer the constant projection of them calling Trump a fascist, which of course they never give any examples of. But I mean, it speaks to a bigger problem in society in general. This, we have been saying a two-tier justice system, which we're quickly discovering is no justice at all. And, a bigger problem with corruption and crime in general at a larger level than I think even Trump was ready for in 2016.
You are
But
so
your
right.
book, well, thank you. But you focus on just a small sector of it when you look at the big picture, and that's the Biden crime family in your book, and you're exposing the corruption from a prosecutorial vantage point. And you compare them to the mafia. So tell me a little bit more about your book.
Well, I did. I mean, I wrote it because I'm the person credited with reviving and really instituting a use of the racketeering statute. First of all, for the purpose for which it was originally written, to get the mafia, and then using it political corruption, for other forms of serious crime, even for very serious Wall Street crimes. I used it successfully against Boesky and Milken. I used it successfully against two different congressmen. I used it successfully against the Koch administration in New York, that went through a period much like Adams is going through now, except I convicted all of them under the RICO statute. And here's the benefit of the RICO statute that people don't, I think, focus on enough. You get to take the money. So you get to take away from them the ill-gotten gains, which then doesn't allow them to continue forever their crime enterprise. So what was happening with the mafia is we were having some success convicting some top echelon people, Frank Costello, Vito Genovese, this one, that one. But then somebody else would just take over their multi-billion-dollar enterprise. We were helping the line of succession. And Professor Blakey of Notre Dame, single-handedly, really, not quite, but he came up with this. And I knew him really well way back when I was a kid. I saw the statute put together, so I probably understood it better than most. And he put it together for all kinds of, including prosecuting them and put them in jail, but also to take their empire away from them, so that not only did they go to jail, but their sons, their daughters, and their friends couldn't just take over, a $20 billion business. And by the time I got to them, they were controlling. They were controlling the Teamsters Union. They were controlling Las Vegas. They were controlling parts of Hollywood. They were controlling the fashion industry. They were controlling the shipping business. The Longshoremen's Union that we just had trouble with was founded by the mafia. Founded by them. So was the Teachers Union. Teachers was founded by the communists, and the mafia helped them. I mean, their deep involvement was unlike any other organized crime group. There have been more dangerous organized crime groups. There right now might be richer ones, but there were none that infiltrated our society in the way that they did, including our politics.
And I know that you also cover the family's involvement, obviously, Biden crime family, particularly Hunter. You came out very early to blow the whistle on the Hunter Biden laptop. You had to get a media blackout. I saw interviews where they were mocking you. And again, the enragement I feel as having been a longtime member of traditional media and would never dream of treating someone like that I'm interviewing. The amount of rage that I feel, knowing, especially now that it was always fair to talk about this, and now it's authenticated. How do you deal with that? It's just like brushed under the rug. It's authenticated by court documents.
Yeah.
The news organizations now will basically admit, but there was no real apology or ownership of the fact that they were the ones
Goodness,
pushing
no. No. They just
misinformation.
go on and make up a new lie. I mean, they've gone from when I was the U.S. attorney for really a decade. I was, and I say this, just straight out. I'm not trying to be immodest, or I was probably the most successful prosecutor of the 20th century. And they wrote that, the Times, front covers
Yeah.
all over the place. Uh, the Mafia, Wall Street, political corruption, even two Nazis that I prosecuted and sent them off to death, one of them very controversial. Um, when I ran for mayor, I was, of course, immediately attacked as a Republican, as we all do. But I kind of emerged as the most successful mayor in a long, long time, with a front cover of Time magazine saying the rejuvenation of America's major city. We went from being the crime capital to the safest large city. We became the welfare reform capital of the country. All of that, fine. And I was allowed on every television station, frequently asked to be a guest. My goodness, I made 100 speeches a year for about 6 years, and I could have made 1,000. And then all of a sudden, it all changed
I mean,
in one day.
you were even named sexiest man alive one year by People, weren't you?
Yeah, and I was Man of the Year for the New York Times. I got the Reagan Freedom Medal. I was knighted by the Queen of England. You've gone on and on. I got the highest medal of France. Maybe even overdone, I think, sometimes. However, I went in one day, like he did, the day he walked down that elevator. He was a very celebrated man. And all during that time, one of my friends, he was a political supporter of mine from the day I started, even Democrat then. But he always was for the more independent and the more honest candidate.
Yes.
I know the level of his honesty. It's very deep. I know the man really well. So when I saw what they did to him, I just said, I'm willing to sacrifice anything. I mean, this is about our country. It isn't just about, if they can do Donald Trump, oh my God, how would a weaker person be able to handle it? And there are times, despite the fact that I know him forever, I'm amazed by him. I'm amazed at how he can carry on I mean, it is really tough to carry on as president and say to yourself, what am I going to do about Iran? And you find out that they're going to try to put your son in jail for no reason. And then you got to spend 3 hours or 3 days trying to figure out, well, what are they doing? And they're doing nothing. They're lying. They're putting together groups of liars. Right now, he and I are indicted in 2 cases, one in Georgia. And no, I'm indicted in 2 cases. He's indicted in one of those in Georgia for putting up false electors. There's nothing false about them. There's exactly what Kennedy and Nixon did. We put up electors in case the state legislature changed the vote based on what I would consider to be overwhelming evidence of fraud. And the fraud, if you look carefully, was confined to the most crooked Democrat cities in America. Detroit, Philadelphia, Atlanta. They didn't cheat everywhere. They cheated where the courts would let them get away with it.
And so again, the book is Biden Crime Family, but we are also discussing just how the tentacles of crime, it's become an entire syndicate crossing the nation and concentrated in the Democrat cities. And so now we have Harris, who's installed running for president. How much do you think that, how much do you think that she's wrapped up into this crime syndicate? How much do you think she knows?
Everything. To the extent that her small brain can retain it, everything. No, I'm serious. I mean, I consider her intellectually unqualified to be president. I mean, okay, she failed the bar exam. A lot of people fail the bar exam and then they pass it. But I mean, at least that's one sign that we're not talking about the sharpest intellect. Then if you listen to her talk carefully, it isn't a joke. She can't logically put thoughts together, which means she can't engage in Socratic reasoning. She can't do a logical construct. She begins and then she goes off in a direction, and then she goes off in another direction.
we all got a front row seat about that with the interview with BRET BAIER. And it's kind of crazy because I try and get a feel for what both sides are saying. And it's like, I watched this entire interview. She filibustered. She would not answer the questions. And I could tell BRET BAIER, as the interviewer, was trying to get these questions in quickly because,
Poor guy.
yeah, because they were cutting him off like when he barely started the interview.
Maybe this will teach him
And
not to be
in
fair.
and yet the whole, like, the left is celebrating this interview. On the one hand, as I said at the beginning, they say that she entered the lion's den and did it great, and then on the other hand, they say that he was rude and he ambushed her. So it's like, which is it, so what was your overall impression of that interview?
Well, I know Brett quite well. I've played golf with him and consider him a friend. And he is I mean, he's conservative, but unlike a lot of us, I mean, including myself, I do a show on Frank and a show on X. I make no bones. I have a point of view. I'm very conservative. He tries very hard to be down the middle, fair. I mean, sometimes we'd get annoyed at him. I mean, I would sit with him and Hannity, and both of us would kind of beat up on him. But he does that on purpose. He thinks that Fox needs somebody, particularly the person who's going to deliver the news, that can try to see both sides of it. But I'd love to talk to him today. He must see that it doesn't matter with these people because they're not honest people. That used to work 30 years ago when you could interview a Democrat who was in as much good faith as you were, but you saw the world differently. You know, maybe you have to go back to Kennedy and his era, but there were plenty of Democrats that you could interview that just saw the world differently. And look, they were just as patriotic. Kennedy was a war hero, and were war heroes. They're going to run against each other. Both of them had equal love for America. They just had a slightly different viewpoint. When we look at Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now, I have said to him, because I've supported his uncle and his father before I became a Republican, I said, your dad would definitely be a Republican now, or an independent. He sure is. Your dad was one of the most honest men in politics. I mean, he got offended that John F. Kennedy took Johnson because Johnson was such a crook. And John F. Kennedy was a little more of a politician. He knew he needed John and thinking about dumping him in the re-election. But Robert F. Kennedy was like a Republican, Democrat, whatever, one of the most honest people you'd ever deal with. He is the first one that went after the Teamsters Union. Mm-hmm. He broke them away from the Democrat. From him on, they supported Republicans. And then I broke them away from the Republican Party because I prosecuted them in 1988, and they stopped supporting Republicans. And now they're back because they've been reformed. Joe DeGenova, who you see on television, on Frank's speech, as well as others, Joe DeGenova took them over, cleaned them out of Las Vegas, and now they're tough, difficult, but clean union.
Nice. Well, bring me back to Kamala real quick. In the pending election, which is now dangerously close, and I do mean dangerously because we know chaos will ensue either way. But I was reminded by an America First Report article I was reading this morning that Kamala Harris, I said horse, that's actually probably a good one. Kamala
I think I know one,
whoopsie.
I think I know the Freudian slip there.
Yes, can you blame me? No, Kamala Harris. No. She's going to be tasked with certifying this election that she has just lost, if and when Trump is elected. And, it asks the questions, will she just stand aside? Will she bring up the 14th Amendment? Like, are you expecting more funny business, especially since she, as the other candidate, will be tasked with certifying it? What do you see going on there?
I foresee from now until Election Day, almost anything, and even things that I can't foresee. Virtually, I had that conversation with the president just yesterday morning. I call him now. He must be getting to be a pest. And I just tell him, more as a friend, I'm worried about you. I'm worried. I'm worried about your safety. I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but myself and a group of us who were very close to him, including people with expertise like Bernard Kerik, who was the police commissioner during 9/11. I've investigated them since 2 years before he ran for president. If you read my book, you will see that he could have been prosecuted even before he announced for president. There was enough evidence
Wow.
beyond most cases to prosecute him. They have morally done the kinds of things that indicate they're capable of murder, and they're investigated homicides, of which I did hundreds. And I always made a list, taught to do this by a first grade detective, of the people with the biggest motive to commit the homicide. Right, a woman gets killed, and the husband's having an affair, and he just took out $1 million insurance policy. Maybe he didn't do it because hell had a motive, right? Right? You got to investigate him. You can't say, "Oh, we'll just take him off the list." Well, who has the biggest motive to see this man dead? Democrats, the deep state, dare I say, Kamala Harris. I mean, these are the people who have the biggest motive. Now, I'm not saying they did it, but I'm sure saying they should be investigated. Meanwhile, being investigated by the agency that's already tried to frame Trump 3 times, the FBI.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't trust the investigation as far as I can throw it. That doesn't mean,
Of course.
I'm asserting a conspiracy or anything else. But I am saying that if they don't do any better, they're going to have a conspiracy, 10 times the Kennedy conspiracy.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're talking about your book, Biden Crime Family, and you can pick it up from Amazon is probably the best way. Show your support, the Biden Crime Family. And I know my time is winding down with you ridiculously quickly. I'm having such a blast talking to you. I'm like, no, I don't want to end. But I do need to ask you, as long as I have you here, I wanted to just have you comment on the state of New York City right now, being that, you are responsible for having turned it around once before. Now we're seeing crime. We're seeing an influx of illegals. We're seeing, for goodness sakes, a former governor assaulted on the street. And this is all after the Democrats have been gaslighting us, saying that crime is down. And, they just adjusted their numbers. This very same agency that is investigating you, they made a mistake, Mayor Giuliani. The crime statistics, whoopsie, they were a little bit off.
Yeah, like the job statistics. We're off by 800,000. I mean, now they have new job statistics that won't be corrected until after the election. I'm sure they're off again by 800. This administration, I think you have to assume anything they tell you is a lie. You're going to more often be right than wrong if you do that. The attack on Governor Patterson is outrageous. The man is legally blind. He's a Democrat. His father was a very, very important figure in New York. I knew his father also, Basil Patterson. It's a beautiful, wonderful family. He's on WABC radio most days, and he's a Democrat, and we probably disagree on 7 out of 10 issues. But he's also a Democrat that's not afraid to speak out about Biden's criminality or about some of the crazy, woke things that they do. He's just a sensible man and a good man. And 4 or 5 guys came up on the back of him and his son. They never even saw them. And then just for no reason, I mean, he actually was telling them, I think they were trying to do a robbery. He was telling them to get down from the ladder where they were trying to, rob someone. Oh. And they decided to cut down from the ladder and beat the living daylights out of them. I mean, what? And they're out of jail already.
I mean, it's got to be hard for you to see that when you help
see it. I go crazy. I have to.
Yeah.
I have to get a punching bag that I can punch before I talk. I mean, is it
a face of Kamala? Your punching bag a face of Kamala?
Well, I'm not gonna comment on that part.
Or Hillary Clinton.
But
That seems like an appropriate one.
This is, I mean, this is one of the best known figures in New York. I'm going to say one of the
Yeah.
best liked by both sides. There's nobody
Wow.
that doesn't like Governor Patterson. Nobody.
Yeah.
If you don't like him, there's something wrong with you. And they beat him
Yeah.
up for no reason other than the fact that he is trying to stop them from committing a crime. And I think they're all illegal aliens. Now we have enough of our own problems. Do you know in
Yeah.
New York,
Exactly.
in the prior month, they did and I bet they won't put it out again. 60% of the crime in Queens and 65% of the crime in the Bronx was committed by people who came into this country under Biden and are here illegally.
Yeah.
Now that is an astounding number, and that's never been true before. When the
Yeah.
liberals say, in defense of this, that the aliens commit less crime than Americans, blah, 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 blah. Of course, they don't account for the fact that we're stuck with our own. We don't have to have any more. But in any event, that was largely true back in the 80s, in the 90s. But when he opened the doors completely, he invited every organized crime, every terrorist group to just come in. It's an open gate. You can bring
Yeah.
in all the fentanyl you want. It's not going to get seized.
And
It's an
so many
insane thing to
consequences.
do.
So much devastation. One more real quick thing I have to ask you about. There's this video
Yes,
going, as long as we're talking about crime and conspiracy, there's this video going around, and if my director, maybe he can play it as we're talking, but it's Biden and Obama talking, and you can't really exactly tell what they're saying, but something is up there. Any thoughts on what they could be talking about? It's a very strange interaction. I wish we had a professional lip reader to let us know what they're talking about. Any thoughts on that video that's been circulating?
Well, I mean, Biden obviously gets the most blame because we have the most unbelievably powerful evidence against him. But there's no doubt in my mind that the top of the chain is Prince Obama. I mean, he at least from 2015 on, when the New York Times wrote a very, very detailed article about Hunter's involvement in Ukraine, which any honest president would have required the vice president to stop his son from being involved with the most crooked man in Ukraine. And he did nothing about it. All of the communiques that I've seen, and then the ones that are hidden from me, Obama saw. He knew that the kid was getting millions and millions of dollars from the most dishonest oligarch in Ukraine, who was pro-Russian. And we were in Ukraine to make them less corrupt and to defeat the Russians. Not only was he getting millions illegally as bribes for his father, but he was doing it with the wrong side. I mean, I have no idea what their real motive in Ukraine is. It is not to help the Ukrainian people. Otherwise, he never would have let this start. And now he won't let them win. He has them engaged in an endless war. And I can only come up with one conclusion, Kristi. It's a great way to make money.
Yeah.
And when they tell you, oh, it goes to the military complex. Well, the reason we have a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in this country is because the military complex is so damn corrupt. So you want to launder money, you pick the right industry. I mean, this country is one of the most corrupt in the world. Zelensky is a product of it. Zelensky is the product of the chief money launderer, Kolomoisky, in Ukraine. That man could sit down and tell you all the offshore bank accounts of any of our politicians that took money from Ukraine. When I say that man, I mean Kolomoisky or Zelensky. So can you imagine when he asks for $8 billion and they give him a little trouble, he just says, well, I'll just put out the files that Giuliani doesn't have. And he's got them he's got them with the best extortionate bill you possibly could have. And Zelensky is to the core a dishonest man. This idea that he's some great hero, he's covering up a bribe to the prior president that ranges somewhere between $50 and $100 million. That's a pretty bad guy.
Yeah, pretty bad guy. And you can read about all the bad guys in Mayor Giuliani's new book, Biden Crime Family. And man, I gotta believe this is hard to keep this book small. So pick up this
Yeah,
big
I
book
tried
about
to
the Biden
focus it
crime.
on one thing, but there'll be more.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll need several volumes. But yes, please pick it up at Amazon and show your support. And Mayor, it was such a pleasure. We got to do this again sometime.
It was for me too, Kristi. Thank you. Have me back.
You bet. Absolutely will. All right. We're going to cover some headlines real quick because then we have to get to our second guest. So, just a quick reminder, with everything going on, be prepared for anything. Be prepared for anything. Because I'm short on time, I'm not going to run the commercial. I'm just going to tell you, klbeef.com, klbeef.com. They have the best discount right now to pick up your shelf-stable beef. It is Stock Up 35% off. You go to klbeef.com, use Stock Up 35, you get 35% off the shelf-stable premium beef from ranchers here in Texas, veteran-owned, no mRNA jabs ever, just quality meat that you'll have in the case of an emergency. Now, forgive me to my director, but I'm going to go back up and cover some news that I wanted to cover with the mayor, but was just having too much fun with him, so we didn't get to it. Don't know how much he can weigh in on these things anyways with the continued onslaught of litigation he faces. But wanted to give you an update on what's going on in Georgia because it is changing by the minute. According to the War Room, Fulton County Board of Registration Elections is busy paying an attorney $600 an hour to try to block independent monitors from getting to observe the count. The Fulton County Election Board filed a lawsuit against the state election board for their proposal to add 2 additional and actually independent monitors to observe the 2024 voting and counting process. But yeah, they can't have that. Even Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock said hand counting will make vote counts totals less accurate. We have a Fulton County judge ruling that election officials must certify votes even if they discover fraud or error. Why bother certifying votes if there are no circumstances where the results can be thrown out based on fraud or error? We've seen this similar thing in Michigan. They are brazen about the fact that they want to cheat. What other reason are they spending so much money, all these lawsuits, to remove any bit of transparency or any checks and balances in this process? And yet they complain about people not having faith in the voting system. Well, maybe stop preventing anything that could solidify it or make us feel better about it. Quit fighting against that. Well, meanwhile, Gateway Pundit says that Trump is celebrating Georgia's historic first-day turnout because he's been urging MAGA supporters to flood the polls early. Here's his quote. He says, "For those that claim Georgia election laws were Jim Crow 2.0 and those that say democracy is dying, the voters of Georgia would like to have a word. Over 300,000 votes cast today. That's 123% higher than the old record for the first day." So they are coming out in full force. And, I always have to mix in a little bit of good news. I played that video to see what Mayor Rudy Giuliani thought that Obama and Biden were talking about there. Here's another take at what they could have been saying. Watch this.
So is Kamala doing okay?
Nope. She's down, Joe. I think they found out that she's retarded. And now we're basically Trump is killing us at the polls. So yes, we're going to lose Joe.
Damn it. Wait. What if I come back to run again?
As candidate?
Yeah.
Well, let me put it this way, Joe. The only person in this world who is even more retarded than Kamala Harris is basically you. So no, Joe,
on, man.
You're
Just
not going
give
back
another
in.
shot.
Let's let it all play out. Okay, we'll talk later, Joe.
Okay.
Women looking fine up in here.
Favorite part. That's my favorite part of that video is women looking fine up in here. The voice of Bill Clinton there. Okay, now we got to cover this. We covered it a little bit, but we got to talk about this interview. This embarrassing interview for Kamala. She refused to take accountability for the past 3.5 years, claiming she has nothing to do with Americans feeling like the country is on the wrong track. Here's what she said.
Frankly, exhausted of Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, That track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
That was the whole interview. But Donald Trump, but Donald Trump, but Donald Trump. And that's not all. She also threw a fit with when Brett Baier played a clip debunking her claims that Trump called the American people the enemy within. Watch this.
He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the president of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
This enraged me. This part of the interview enraged me because this is what the Biden-Harris administration has been doing to their political opponents and is still doing to this day. Very ironic that she would say that, considering everything she's accusing Trump of. They're actively imprisoning peaceful protesters. We all know it. The latest edition is growing. A woman named Bevelyn Williams, as Publius pointed out, Kamala Harris's DOJ is sending a black woman to prison for 3.5 years for peacefully protesting outside an abortion clinic. And that's a picture of her beautiful family. This Department of Justice is ripping her from those beautiful children and her husband for 3.5 years for disagreeing with them, essentially. It is unreal what this country has come to under Biden and Harris. But then again, they think so little of us, it really shouldn't surprise anyone. Remember, this is the same woman who called an entire demographic of voters stupid, and she attempted to act like it never happened. Watch this.
So are they misguided, the 50%? Are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid.
Unbelievable. Disgusting, but Americans are clearly listening because even MSNBC couldn't find a single Harris voter at early voting in Arizona. Watch.
And I should note, we did not find a single person who audibly would tell us that they voted for Kamala Harris. These were Trump supporters getting out to vote early in the all-important Mojave County. Take a listen to some of our conversations.
Well, the difference is going to be that everybody's coming out early. And everybody that we've talked to has made a special effort this year to vote, and you can see it here in the parking lot. You know, this library's usually got 5 cars in it. There's a ton of cars in it now.
Said you voted early for the first time.
For the first time.
Why did you vote early this year?
Honestly, because Donald Trump told me to.
Yeah, you know it's bad when MSNBC can't even find them, but unfortunately they're still out there and they're as mentally ill as ever. Just take a look at a clip of a teacher. She held a mock election and the daughter came home. She said, "Mom, we had this mock election, but only the Kamala voters are getting a pizza party." And here's the conversation the mother had with the teacher, just a clip of it. Watch this.
You had told the class that whoever votes for Kamala will get a pizza party, but those that don't will not be included in the pizza party.
For Harris?
Yeah.
What period is your daughter in?
I am not sure.
So I believe only one period 5, had a majority for Harris.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and to follow that same spirit, because the Democrats are more for feeding the hungry, free medical care, feed more services, just pay higher taxes, that I'll be willing to buy pizza for the class.
Okay.
What did she say? Said
you are willing to buy pizza for the class for those who win with Harris, right?
For those that voted for Harris?
Yeah.
Is she in period 5? If she's not in period 5.
They're shameless. They just can't resist the opportunity to bring kids into everything. It's sick, but good for that mom for sticking up for her child and at least calling the teacher out on it. All right, we're going to talk about efforts to protect the swing state votes with my next guest. Really excited to talk to him, making a difference. But first, just a reminder, keep this show going by supporting our sponsors. One of them is Native Path. I only work with partners where I actually use their product. Native Path, I use regularly. Watch this. Are you ready to move easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Do you want to look in the mirror and see a plump, hydrated glow instead of more fine lines and wrinkles? Discover Native Path Collagen made with only type 1 and 3 collagen fibers, the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body. Found in your cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, and gut, types 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Get nativepath.com/get free. Do it. Support the show. Native Path. You're going to get that huge discount. All right. All eyes on the swing states. Well, let's hope so. That's where we saw the most funny business, right? Vote spikes overnight in 2020. But we must not let complacency set in. One man is doing what he can to move the needle in Wisconsin. Orlando Owens is the creator of Project Move the Needle, which is a voter engagement movement focusing on targeted boards in the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's a minister, a husband, a father, and a lifelong Milwaukee resident. I'm so excited to have him join me now to give us an update on if Wisconsin will be red or blue this time around. First of all, thank you for your patience. I'm so sorry. I'm getting to you later than I wanted to. But thank you for joining me.
Oh, you're fine. Awesome. And thank you for allowing me to be on your show.
Yes, I'm honored by it. We need more people like you that are doing the work. You're not wringing your hands upset about everything like a lot of us are, just like and like not doing anything. You're doing something, and we thank you for that. So why did you get involved and start boots on the ground in this effort?
Well, one of the issues in Milwaukee is that we have a lot of Milwaukee is the kind of the heart and soul of the Democratic Party machine between Milwaukee County and Dane County, and Milwaukee in particular. Here in Wisconsin, we have a state law that if you are a felon and off probation or off paper, you can vote. And we have a large population of felons in the city of Milwaukee. But just like many other segments of Milwaukee voters, they're overlooked. And so we started looking at the numbers of how many votes we needed out of Milwaukee to move the needle to add to the overall vote count in our state that would help turn Wisconsin red. Now, we're not going to win Milwaukee or Milwaukee County, but can we move the needle in the right direction? And we did some numbers. We need about 7% more, which is about 10,000 vote-ish to get out of Milwaukee. And so we tried to figure out, like, where can we find voters that would be open? And a lot of the organizations from, no shade to them, but a lot of organizations in the city or in Wisconsin, they're not targeting the hood where most black men are. We're making a strong play for black men. And so most of the organizations are already on the outskirts. They're not right here in the city. The overlooked people, they won't fall on low propensity voting ranges. These people may not even vote at all. And so that's what came to my mind. Like, if we can find enough voters here and there, we might be able to move the needle. And so our team, we have about 10 people right now. We may get to 12, depending on if donations go well. But if we do 10 doors and talk to 10 people, 3 of those people are open, and one of those 3 will vote for Trump. And I tell my team every day, find the 3. We know how the 7 gonna break because it's Milwaukee, right? It's the heart of the Democratic Party. But if we can find the 3, then that's 30%. And I'm not even saying that all three of them will vote for him, but at least those 3 are open and they can be persuaded one way or the other. And that's our goal. We are in the heart of the city. We just had, unfortunately, my team, we witnessed 3 shootings in the city while we're out canvassing, because this is the type of element that this Democrat-run city, Democrat-run county has left the people. And so that's kind of what drove the initiative. And we've been doing it now about 4 months now.
Wow. And such great work that you're doing. And you're having these conversations. So I'm really curious about, obviously there's this effort, Obama's out there. It's like they're doing this campaign of man shaming, particularly black men, if they are not in it for Kamala enough. So what is your perspective? Is that working?
Well, most black men, we were never really fond of Obama like that, especially once we saw him govern. And for them to trot him out and to say, the scold black men to say somehow we don't want Kamala or Miss Harris, or how you pronounce it, because she's a woman and make these, it insulted a lot of black men. And I say that when I go to the doors. I mean, are you going to do what Barack Obama tell you to do, or are you going to follow your own mind and weigh out your options? Now, one of the things we talk about, we talk to people who say, well, I can't do Trump. I said, okay, well, don't give your vote to Kamala because you can't do Trump. What about Cornel West, Jill Stein? What about writing your own name in? But just don't give it to Kamala. She hadn't earned your vote support. And the response is, you're right. And so we can have conversations about all the candidates. Now, naturally, we want you to pick Trump. But at the very least, just don't give your vote away. Do your research. And if you arrive at that point that you honestly want to vote for Kamala after hearing both sides, then more power to you. Most folk hadn't heard the Republican side, or the conservative side put to them in the way that we do it. They're more concerned about Project 2025. And I say, well, that's not Agenda 47. I said, well, what part of Project 2025 don't you like? Well, they're going to take away this. I said, well, that's not true at all. Or they're taking away the Federal Department of Education. I said, you do know that most states have a state-run education department. That's redundancy. That's more tax money you're paying for people doing the same job. And so we started having this great dialogue on local powers, and the power should be with the people. Our country is bounded on the idea of we the people. And the more I talk to men, especially about money issues, they say, yeah, I like Trump. I like what he's saying, because let's take off the social stuff and let's focus on money. And that's why this really, if I don't offend your audience, but this really masculine message of you want a secure border so that you can get the support you need here in this country. Charity starts at home and then it spreads abroad. So if we can't help Americans or black men who are trying to make it in this country, but you have people coming over the border. I was talking to a felon just the other day. I said, listen, you can't go to Belize. If you're a felon and they run a background check on you, you can't go and your passport won't let you. But we can take people over the border who we can't even do a background check to. How is that right? How is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of moving the needle, you would think that this administration that has rolled out the red carpet for illegals, people that shouldn't even be here, giving them phones, housing, an allowance, and yet forgetting about the minorities who they're supposedly champions for it. You would think that would be effective in moving the needle. Is that what you're hearing from folks?
Exactly, that part. When we start to look at and compare and contrast on how others are being treated versus the people that you claim to love so much, because Democrats love them some black people. And so if they love you so much, they care about you so much, why are the conditions here so hard for you? And why does it seem that others are getting $1,500 per child, and you as a mother who are low income or a dad who's low income can't get no help for your child for school, but they can. They can get their rent paid up for 2 years, but you scratching and getting 5-day notices, but you're about to get evicted and you can't find a job. You're piecing a job together. You're trying to hustle and grind, but other folk who ain't even from this country get more help than you.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier that you're going into some very difficult neighborhoods where there's even been shootings. And the Democrat Party has really shown itself to be the party of really stoking the fires of division and violence. And so have you been concerned for yourself or your workers? Has there been any really heated exchanges or anything like that in you going out there?
Well, we always get some of those people who are just, drinking the Democrat Kool-Aid, and white people are racist and Republicans are racist. We get some of those. The shootings have been close, maybe a block off, or we're walking up on a house and there's a shooting in the alley. And so we have to pull the whole team and just go somewhere else because the block is too hot. And these are the things that are happening in broad daylight. We canvass from 10 to 2. So people are having this type of meltdown in our city, and they're struggling with, social, let's call it mental health and social ills. And they're doing these type of crimes right here in broad daylight. This is a sign of the dysfunction of local government that has failed the people here in Milwaukee, and is reflective in many urban areas and many rural areas that government has left them behind. And what we're offering to them is saying, well, you don't owe the Democrat Party anything. In fact, they owe you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know that this is your focus and this is your mission, and it's such a good one. But I was curious, have you been hearing anything about election integrity this time around is in Wisconsin? Anything encouraging? Do you think we're dealing with the same funny business situations that we dealt with in 2020, or how are you feeling as far as that goes?
I'm feeling a little better. I've ran to a few organizations who are doing some work around the drop boxes. Unfortunately, the drop boxes are here, but we don't have as many this time around. And I don't want to reveal everything because some of the information was, told to me privately. But I do see conservative groups, not necessarily the party, but they are very active in the, let's say, they're aware of the drop boxes. And I do hope and I do believe that the election officials will be now in the nursing homes. As you all know, during COVID, they removed all the election workers out of the nursing homes, and the nursing homes were voting 100% for Joe Biden or something crazy like that. And the family members of some of these people would say, my mother shouldn't be voting. She don't even recognize who I am, and I'm her daughter or son. And so they removed that. And so now the election observers are back again. So that's going to be more, more surveillance, more eyes, and without revealing everything, we are aware of where the drop boxes are. I'll put it that way.
Well, that's good. And I know that's not your focus again, but I was just curious because obviously that's many people's biggest concern.
It is part of our focus because one of the things we talk about with some of the information that we do pass out, we have an amendment on our ballot, a referendum, that says should only American citizens vote in elections. And that question overwhelmingly, even to Black folk who may or may not even vote that often, or any local business voter, they're saying, yeah, only Americans should be voting in our elections. So only citizens should be voting in our. And so it's talking about, again, integrity. That should be sacred. Only Americans, citizens should be voting in American elections.
What about this whole voter ID narrative? Are you finding that in these neighborhoods, many people don't have IDs, or is that just silly?
It's white liberals who think they need to come save Black people. We don't need a savior. His name is Jesus Christ. You don't need you white folk coming to save. Well, you poor Black folk, y'all can't even get your own ID. Stop playing, man. Stop playing with that stuff. That's white liberals and progressive Blacks who again looking down on Black people who can take care of themselves. We don't need a handout. We just need to get your hand out of the way. Stop with they don't even know how to use a computer. What is this thing they call a computer? Just ask the New York governor. They don't know how to use computers. Stop it. Who are you talking to like this? Condescending. Yeah. Barack Obama saying, well, you lucky I don't have to get Michelle on y'all brothers. Stop it, man. Stop it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not doing themselves any favors with any of those things. It's quite shocking to hear them say those things. It's insane. Now, although you don't need a handout or help, I'm sure you could use some assistance if there's other people that want to help with this effort, or even maybe monetarily support. What's the best way for people to connect with you and to support your effort?
Please go to our website, which is orlando4wi.com, and 4 is FOR. I do apologize for our donate button being at the bottom of the page. We are working with our web designer to help us out, but it is at the bottom of the page. That's one thing that we're going to try to improve on, but it is on our page. Our goal right now, we had a $10,000 goal, but as days are going by, we wanted to hire maybe 3 more people that actually, that's also shocking that so many people actually want to come work for us. And I kind of do the screening process, like, are you pro-Trump, anti-Trump, or are you independent? Most of the people on our team are more neutral. They're independent thinkers. And so we got 3 guys right now who say, well, I want to work, I'll do it, and I support Trump. I'm like, well, I don't have enough. So right now we currently work 4 days a week, only 4 days, 4 hours. And so if we can get to maybe 5,000, any donation is a blessing. And I thank God for all the help in your platform and our friend George for making the connections and everything. Just having an opportunity just to talk to people. So we have a goal of 5 to 7, but we'll take whatever just to get our team of 10 right now to work 5 days a week and get us through Election Day.
Yes, absolutely. It's right around the corner. Early voting has already started in many states. So this is urgent, guys. They need your help right now. So make sure you check out that website. And when we were scrolling through, we did see the donate button, so we know where it's at, and see how you can get involved. This is the difference. This is the difference of whether we can save America or whether we lose our religious freedoms and our ability to speak. We can kiss this show goodbye if Kamala stays in power. I'm out of work again. So yes, please support Orlando Owens. We appreciate you so much. Everything that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for all your audience. And please still believe in America. America is still worth fighting for. America is still worth defending. Keep praying for America.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thank you again. Project Move the Needle. Check the website out and help where you can. All right. Just to finish up, I need to quickly get down to my verse of the day. Can we bring it up? Because I don't have it. Oh, here it is. There it is. Okay, here's the verse of the day. It is, but when he, the Spirit of truth, comes, he will guide you into all truth. He will not speak on his own. He will speak only what he hears, and he will tell you what is yet to come. And that's from John 16:13. We all need discernment. We all need to be tapped in to the Holy Spirit, and we all need some more Get Free with Kristi Lee. So make sure you share this show like crazy and tell other people about it. And I just really appreciate all you viewers. Don't forget to spread the word, share with friends. Get Free with Kristi Lee on frankspeech.com.